I'll call this Smyth County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I may even turn my microphone on for it. Please stand with us, and we're going to be doing the Pledge of Allegiance led by Paula Harvey Clark. She's not married, so I don't know what to call her now. And remain standing for Heather Gillespie to do the prayer for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to gather here for the Board of Supervisors to come together and make decisions that are very important to the growth and well-being of Smyth County. We just ask that you lead, guide, and direct them in the path that they take in making those decisions, and just help us to focus on remembering more so about the problem solver, which is you, than focusing on the problem, because we know that with you all things are possible. We ask that you give us your travel mercies on our way home, and bless those who are not here and are watching online. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
As far as I know, the agenda will be as presented unless someone has an amendment.
We do need to add one closed session for A7 for Jericho case. 2.2-3711 A7.
Alrighty. So we have that addition. He has a presentation now. So starting right off, we'll get with the Smyth Promise update. Ms. Helton will be here to discuss that, and we're the forerunners on that. I don't know if you noticed today's news, but the state of Michigan is going to do it for all their community colleges.
Oh, nice.
That's what
I think it is a trend that's starting. So who knows, one of these days maybe the state is going to take over for all they're doing, but until then, we've got some folks covered, I think. No, I just wanted to do a quick update on, we have our first semester behind us, and that was fall semester. And there are 44 students that received it. I think you got a packet of some information that talked about not only 44 students that were assisted by Smyth Promise, but I don't know if you recall, when we were talking about this, we even said that what we think is a lot of folks who thought they couldn't afford school are going to go, they have to do their FAFSA, and they're going to get full federal coverage. Yes?
I hate to bother you. I screwed up and forgot to give it to you, so I will email it out to you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
My bad.
That's all right.
But it's a great report.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, then I don't feel bad about saying the numbers. Okay, so I will slow down and talk about it then. So we had 44 students that received help through Smyth Promise. We had 81 students that would have, but they got full coverage. So that is more than double the number that we were able to help out with our scholarship. And the total amount that our two organizations together paid was right about $75,000. And the range was like, there were some students that got in the $200 is what met their need, and then there were others that got around $2,800. So it was that's what we knew we would see, that some people are going to get partial coverage and so forth. And so but here was the big number that I love to see, and that is Withville said, comparing fall 23 to fall 22, they saw a 40% increase in their number of students. And Virginia Highlands reported an 18% increase. And so we're gonna keep tracking this to see how we're doing, but the real number that I think is going to make a difference, and we need to get down the road to see this, is looking at, for Smyth County, the overall higher education with all the residents of Smyth County. Do we see that that is improving, of people that are getting some sort of higher education? Because that's what we're after, is that folks can get some training. So we had CDL licensure we supported somebody getting that. Pole climbing, which I think it ties right into their power line worker curriculum and so forth, which is it's not like a 2-year degree. I think it is a certificate program, or they call it a workforce program. We supported students in nursing, diesel mechanic, teacher prep, general studies that are planning to go on to a 4-year school. So I think we got a great mix of all the different ones that we're supporting. So I think it is a really good report. So I was able to talk to them about spring semester and said, how are things looking? And they give me some of their indicators. And it looks like instead of 44, it's going to be somewhere in the mid-30s that we'll have. And Withville explained to me that some students that were part-time in the fall and went to full-time actually now qualify for full benefits through FAFSA and through federal aid. So we won't have to have anything for support for them. We do have a couple of students, I don't know, it sounded like it was very few that didn't do well their first semester, and so they didn't return. But for the most part, I think that we're going to see some lower, it will be less than the $75,000 for the second semester because of some of the things that they were explaining as far as now getting full aid. So those are some good things, but I really want to talk to you about another aspect of the scholarship is that we required the students to do 10 hours of volunteer at an area nonprofit. And we put together a list of, I think there's like 25. We try to get them all over the county, 25 organizations. So if you know somebody that says, oh, I might not be on the list, or I don't know if I am, let me know who they are, because we want to add them. We want to have people, so in Conner Rock and in Sugar Grove or Rich Valley. And we do have all the corners taken care of, but it's always nice to add more. And so I talked to some of the folks that were doing this, that were sponsors for the volunteer hours. And the one that I have as a good story to tell is Smyth Animal Rescue. They are a popular one because it's taking care of the cats and the dogs and so forth. So they had 8 student volunteers come, and she shared with me the story about one that came and did some cleaning around the place. It's 10 hours, so it's all of these nonprofits give them something easier to do because they're only going to be there 10 hours. So this student was doing some cleaning and stuff, but was really taking interest in the cats that they have there at the rescue. And so she talked to another friend who also needed to get volunteer hours, and they got together and they started in a regular rotation for taking care of the cats. And I do volunteer there, as do some others in here. And it's a weekly thing that you do, and it's a time commitment. So they were doing that, and they got their 10 hours, and they went to the executive director and said, we'd like to just stay in the rotation. We want to continue doing it. And she recruited her younger sister to also. So I think what I hoped would happen with the whole volunteer is that we would raise up additional volunteers, because we definitely need them in the county, as much as we need skilled workers for our jobs. And so that was a positive story to be able to hear that, okay, this is working in some ways. And the other thing she told me that I thought was great is she said all 8 that came were hard workers. And I'm going to be reaching out to all the other organizations where I know that students went to volunteer. They just recently gave me the numbers about volunteer, and see how it went for them. And I'll share more stories. We'll email them so we don't take up everybody's time. But I think it is great to see some of the things that we hoped we would gain out of the program are coming to fruition. So congratulations on doing that. So any questions? Do you guys have any questions about the program? Okay. So our mission at Smyth County Community Foundation is to partner to build pathways for a stronger community by creating opportunities and giving hope for a brighter future. So this scholarship checks all of those boxes for us. That it touches, through the partnership, it is breaking down the barriers that students are seeing that keep them from going to school. It is paving a way for many of our residents to get higher education. And so it is through our partnership that we're doing that. And so we have an award that we awarded last night, and it is our Building Pathways Award. And so we decided we were going to give it to you here. So can we do that? Oh, thanks. Do you want to help give them out?
Sure.
All right. We'll do this. I'll take a couple and you can take a couple. So, now Mike doesn't get one because he already received his. Mr. Paul?
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Billings?
Wait a second,
Thank you.
Mine's already on the wall.
And already on the wall. And we included the whole, we know that Anna and probably many more had a part in getting this thing launched. And we're advertising it. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few years, and we track it, and hopefully both of our organizations are going to see that it's something that we want to continue to do. And so we'll report back in occasionally just to let you know how it's going. All right. Any questions for me?
I'll just throw out, with the beauty of technology, if you refresh your folder, you now have the data that she was talking about that I should have included. So
There
it's on
you
your,
go.
It's on your tablet now.
So now you can read all the words.
And I'd just like to say, I was.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
I was just looking at it and seeing the different programs that are being utilized by the students. It's amazing because you just got a mix of everything. You know, it's just not typical, just college classes.
Right.
So glad to see that there's other programs being utilized, HVAC, you talk about the diesel mechanics, stuff like that. You know, those are jobs that are fading away quickly in this area.
Right.
I think everywhere. So,
Yeah.
and I try to encourage a lot of the kids I see, some of the older kids, you know, to get into these trades because anymore you can almost name your price, and you know, it's a good job.
Well, and I think some students feel like that they are not a college, you know, they don't want to do college course or whatever. And the fact that we're covering these certificate programs or just to get, you know, the training that they need in order to do that specific trade, I think is really great that we're including all of those things. So congratulations. I think we're off to a good start. And I hope that we keep reporting back numbers that it is continuing to get better and better each year. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time.
I have a couple of questions before you run off.
Okay.
First off, I finally pulled it up here. I'm computer challenged. Looking like a lot of the students came from the Chilhowie High School, probably because they had good representation there. I'm sort of surprised we only had 3 from Marion.
Now, you go down to the next
Oh,
page.
okay.
This is the Whitfield side,
Oh, okay.
and this is Virginia Highlands.
Yeah, so Virginia Highlands is going to show a lot of Chilhowie and Northwood. And it is, you will see some Marion there. But then when you look at Whitfield, it's pretty much all Marion. I wonder, yeah.
My next question is a procedural question. And excuse me for being ignorant on this, but let's say a student gets a $1,000 scholarship to attend college. Do they have, you know, they'd say, well, I'm gonna spend 2 years here and then I'm gonna go to Virginia Tech. What if can they tell that scholarship person, you know, whoever's presenting it, say, hey, send that money to Tech? Or
Well, they can't for this
I know,
because,
but if they send it there, then we gotta You see what I'm getting at there?
$1,000.
It's gonna cost us $1,000 for them.
Oh, I see what you're saying, that,
I mean, I
That-
would if I was a parent, I'd say, let them pay for this, send that $1,000 where I'm going, to, my son or daughter's going to college,
right,
4-year degree.
yeah. So I think they would end up having to get the scholarship closer to the time that they're going to tech, and then it would qualify for that. But we are, with the foundation, we're just starting in on what you might call traditional scholarships. So we have one for education and one for healthcare curriculums. And so the thing that we like about that is, we already said, if somebody sends in their application and they said they're going to Withville, we're going to say, then you're already covered, You wouldn't need to get this scholarship. And it allows it to go then to another student that is now ready to, maybe it's their 3rd year of nursing, and we can cover that now because of this scholarship.
I know Virginia Tech used to allow you to send, if the check went in the registrar's office, it stayed there for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, you could?
Yeah, it didn't, in other words, if you didn't use it this semester, it stayed for the next semester. And it carried, I don't know what the life of it was, but it probably did have a limitation, but.
Right. But once it's on your account, I guess it's on your account
Yeah,
for good. So I guess that is a possibility that it could, but we do need to keep an eye on that.
Right.
I think keep an eye on it to make sure that our scholarship dollars are spread as far as possible.
right.
That we have more people that are getting some type of assistance, as opposed to like 1 or 2 people that are getting a lot of the same ones. So we've been talking with Smyth County Educational Foundation as well. They've helped us get up and going in the whole scholarship arena. And we were talking about how to share information so that way our scholarships are not all going to the same people. Let's spread it out and have better coverage.
Any more questions? Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Next, Davenport and Associates, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, good to be back. It's going to be hard coming behind such a good presentation, so maybe next time I go first or something, but if you want me back. I do have hard copies of this as well, so I'm going to just pass this around. I will just add, while y'all getting this, my wife is working with a group called Education Equals Hope. She presented to the church on Sunday, and it's amazing what small dollars can leverage big dollars and what it makes for people and young people. It's pretty impressive, so good to see. Again, I appreciate being back. For those of you, I'm David Rose, and I've had the good fortune of working with y'all for probably about 25 or 30 years as financial advisor. So this evening, I was here literally just a few weeks ago, and I indicated if you'd have me back, I would come back to talk a little bit about getting your formal approval to move forward with a next phase of some of the capital projects and funding of that. The first few pages here, I think we can go past. It was what I presented previously. Again, for the audience, background, I've had the good fortune, as I said, working with the county, working with Mr. Atkins in his prior role as the financial CFO, and we've done a number of things together with y'all on those first couple 3 pages. But what we also did, importantly, if you look to page 3 on that last bullet, in late 2023, I had the good fortune of meeting with the Finance Committee. Some of you were on virtually, some were right here in this room with Mr. Utt and Lisa, and we talked about how to continue to fund responsibly those capital projects that were given to us. Again, for those that make sure I don't recommend projects, I don't tell you what's right or wrong. You come to me and say, can we do this, or how can we do this? What's the impact to the county? That's my role. How do we do this most effectively? So with all of that on page 4, what you see here is we really have two sets of projects going forward. The first set of projects is the county projects in the middle of the page, and the second set are the school projects. Those school projects, interestingly, we're not asking anyone to take any action on, but as we speak right now in the legislature, there is legislation being promoted that would allow for a 1% sales tax, up to 1%, that would be voted on by each county or city, as the case may be. If that were the case, this county could entertain that. It's been done now 9 times, but it's always been on an individual basis that a local government has had to petition, if you would, the county. It's been a county legislature, I should say, and that has been successful, particularly with referendums. None have failed so far, and so a number of our clients, for example, as far east as Gloucester and as far west as Patrick County, have been taking advantage of these things. Henry County, Patrick County, Halifax County in Pennsylvania, all of those in the 58 corridor have used this, and it's been a very good thing. It's only for schools. So while we have got some plans and strategies, nothing will happen too quickly, and we're not going to preempt anything. We are in the process of asking for, working with the schools and the county for grant monies, and we talked about that the last time. That would not change. But again, to the extent that there might be some borrowed monies or what have you, this 1% could go to pay for that, and that's important because we've also applied for 2% guaranteed fixed rate money for the schools. That money is only available for schools. So again, this will be a work in progress, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about a schedule and where we would come and talk about this some more and the impacts of all that. So that's on page 4. So page 5, what we recommended when I was here last, I want to talk about today the schedule, is what we call a dual track approach. And we did this last year when we did the radio system. We dual tracked it. We went not only to local, regional, national banks in a competitive process, but we also approached the Virginia Resources Authority. We want to do the same thing. I want to get your blessing. I'm going to show you in a few moments what that's going to look like. As I said, the second part of that whole page talks about schools, but again, that will come in time. The third part I wanted to mention and underscore, and the Finance Committee heard this, and I think you all heard this last time as well, is that with regard to the general fund, the county projects, including the one we did last year, that roughly $10+ million, the equivalent impact of that with the last year project that's now been successfully funded and the ones we're talking to you today with your approval will be a total of slightly under the equivalent of 2 pennies. And I use the word equivalent because it doesn't mean you go and raise 2 pennies, but you need to think about it in terms of coming up with roughly those 2 pennies. If it's helpful, basically what you did last year requires about 1 penny. What we're talking about now will require about 1 penny. So it's roughly each of them about 1 penny each.
And that's a penny on the real estate tax.
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah, on the real estate tax. So let's go to page 6, the dual track approach. If this were Groundhog's Day, I think I did this almost a year ago. There's that dual track. The first track is a solicitation, or we call it a direct bank loan. We were very successful last year. We take nothing for granted. Part of the reason we were successful was the banks were interested in making loans, and they made a very favorable one to Smyth County. Part of that reason is Smyth County's financials are solid, and when we met with the Finance Committee, we talked about that. You've got policies, you meet all those policies, if not exceed it. You've got good solid funds in the bank, and so as a result, you're attractive to lending institutions. The second part is the VRA. We have to apply to that. The application is due on February 2nd, which is essentially next Friday. We're on track to do that. We've been going back and forth with your staff and my staff to make sure that we get that application in. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If we do not use them, if we do not use the direct banks, we, the county, are not out any dollars. It's going to be your decision ultimately if you want to move forward. That's the beauty of this. We'll get to know specifically what the interest rate is, the terms and conditions are before you are committing to move forward. Okay, so that hasn't changed, and I think that is one of the strengths of this whole process, is you get to know what you're doing before we actually sign on the dotted line, so to speak. So let's talk for a moment about the schedule on page 7. Here tonight, 25th, feels like March 25th, but last week it felt like January 25th, so depends. I understand, and y'all got a bunch of snow here, and we skirted it in Richmond, and got a little ice. So here we are. With your approval, we're going to go out on the 29th, basically early next week, and put this request out. We do that for several weeks. We will simultaneously send the application in to VRA. And again, that does not commit you to using either of these. Now, you'll notice there it says February 8th, a board meeting, and we're going to present some more details on capital and strategies. With your blessing, I was just talking to a county administrator. We'd like to move that, Mr. Chairman, to February 22nd. Our thinking is we should have a better understanding of what may or may not happen at the legislature. And that way it could be just a little bit more updated in terms of what we talk to you about. If it turns out we're not, again, we can give you some options and still give you a sense of it. You're not committing for anything at that time anyway. It's meant to be educational, particularly as you go into your upcoming budget deliberations for the 25 fiscal year. So we're looking at having bids back from the banks a week later, roughly, 27th. Public hearings are required. You know that anytime the county wants to borrow new money, as we call it, public hearings are required, one public hearing, but notices are required in a certain time schedule, working through with your various legal counsels to make sure that is all done. But if indeed we're moving forward, if we get bank bids we like and or we think VRA looks good, we will ask you to give us that blessing on March 14th. That's the sort of the critical date. We would then be in a mode to move forward. And if you go to the next page here, the last page, VRA would like to have all the approvals by March 22nd. It's possible we will not be able to meet that, so we have you have a 28th board meeting. They have indicated that we could send that in on the 28th, even though their deadline is the 22nd. So really that's the finality of this. And then if we don't go through VRA, we'll close sometime in early April most likely, or we will close in mid-May if we use VRA. So again, nothing new from a year ago, but again, we'd like to get the consensus of this board to continue to move that process. Rates are still looking very solid. You know, there's been talk, the Federal Reserve has sort of supposedly stopped their raising rates. They're thinking about maybe cutting them. I don't know, but at least the rates are very favorable. And I think they will be particularly favorable for us meaning the county, because you do have a very solid overall financial position. That's all I have, Mr. Atkins, and happy to answer any questions of the board.
Any other questions? Okay, we would entertain a motion to go forward with this.
Authorize staff and consultants to proceed.
So moved.
And I'll just note, I'll reiterate what David said, you know, it doesn't commit us to anything, but it gives us those options to figure out what we have in front of us.
Fact-finding information.
Yes, sir.
And especially, let's say if something goes awry and the banks don't look good and we don't like where the markets are going, we're not under obligation to move forward. We can delay this process. You know, that's certainly what you're able to do.
We're good at the land project. Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Have a motion to second, any discussion?
The renovation is actually the demolition, right?
Yes, and the building back of another.
If it were for the or primary,
Yes, we're,
the intermediate.
intermediate school, yeah.
So there is already planned for something to be
Yes.
built back.
Absolutely, I think that actually comes first, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right? Yes.
And on our side, we're just looking for the money to make it happen. The school board would be the lead on that portion if it goes forward.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? I believe it was unanimous.
Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
Thank you, David. Drive careful.
Yes, sir.
Finally, let's skip VDOT and move on down to VDOT. We'll let you have the floor.
Thank you. Hello. I received an email today with a list of 7 items that you all had some questions about. So if it's okay, I'll go through those 7 items. The first one was an intersection on Stony Battery Road, 1800 block, and South Fork Road, the 2100 block. The stop sign has been knocked down, and I moved that request onto our sign division, or our sign group, to put that back up. It should be as soon as possible. They'll get on that. The second one was Brandy Holloway had sent, I think, some estimates or time estimates for some projects in Smyth County, and she's the project manager. I emailed her and asked her for an update, and as soon as I get that, I can email Mr. Those, as far as I know, those dates are still good, but if anything changes, I will email you and let you know.
And those are tied to the bridge and roundabouts in
Right,
Granville.
the 2 roundabouts and the bridge there, in McMullen. Let's see, number 3, intersection of Nix Creek Road and Pierce Road, as well as a turn onto Pierce Road. It has a steep and sharp turn, with that being the route to Grace Christian Academy. Can that be improved any way to make it safer? Additionally, can it be treated heavier for snow, ice in the future? We can do a field review on that. We weren't able, I mean, because I got it today, and we had some meetings, both of us were in meetings today, so we'll schedule a field review and look at it and get back with you if there's any improvements that we see that can be made on our maintenance. We're maintenance at the residency, so we'll see what we can possibly do there.
As far as, you mind if I bring something up? As far as that's concerned, though, as far as the snow and ice and things like that, that's something that could be, I mean, I guess done as soon as possible. Is that what you're?
Well, we can get out and we were talking about that today in a meeting about, you know, having monitors out on the road to check the roads and see what might need to be, what might be needing our attention sooner than later. But right now we do primaries first, and then we do the secondaries.
Yeah, that intersection's coming off, if you're coming off there, and there's a tremendous amount of traffic coming off that hill. If we had the least little snowfall, you know, we hit the bottom and you come to the stop sign, a lot of times you hope nobody's coming because you're still sliding. And it really needs to have something done there, I don't know what.
And it's increased too with the school, and that's a little bit of a concern, just because they don't operate on normal.
That's what I was gonna ask, are they
No,
are they
don't.
still
Like,
open
there's
even if?
schools out here, they're probably gonna be open.
Okay.
It just depends on how severe it is. But that right there, that little section right there could make that determination, whether they can be open or not, just for the safety of their kids, so.
Well, we'll schedule a field review and
Okay.
see what we might be able to do on the maintenance side, and then we can get back.
That's
with
always
you.
been a preferable term right there.
Okay. Let's see, Number 4,
Up Next Creek.
is it an option to put a speed limit sign on Matson Drive when it enters into the county, or a way to slow the folks down driving down that road? Speed limit signs are part of our traffic engineering division. They have to do studies before they can put those up. So, I've already sent that to the traffic engineering division to ask for a field review. And once I get their response, I'll email you and let you know what the
Can I
outcome is.
ask one question?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So, the concern is it's 25 when you start.
Uh-huh.
And once you get into the county, technically, my interpretation is it continues on.
Uh-huh.
But, being as a town jurisdiction going to the county jurisdiction, there's those speed limit signs in the county side.
Yeah, and that's a good question.
And they're having some problems, so even if they decide that those signs are posted, if we could just get an answer as far as if that speed limit technically changes or not.
Mhm. And I can check, I mean, I've sent them an email and asked them to review it, but I can check with the traffic engineer to see, there may have been studies in the past or whatever where that is a 35, but the town has jurisdiction to put up those speed limits, and it could be different in the county from when we look at it. And I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you
No,
tonight.
it's
but,
okay, it was brought up to me, and it's been an issue in the past,
Mhm.
and I was just hoping maybe we could get a little more definite answer here soon, not tonight, but.
Yeah, and we will definitely look at it and get back with you. And if we can, we'll put up the signs. I mean, if a speed limit is determined in there, faster, slower, whatever, than what the town is, we'll put up the signs. Our traffic division will do that. Let's see, number 5, exit 47, when you get off the interstate, citizens have low visibility pulling out. Is that 47 south or
Yes,
northbound?
it had to be.
It's just coming back over Highway 11.
At Rifton Road, is that what you're talking about? Or,
Mhm.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
They just said that traffic's coming so fast and they can't see and you have to actually kind of pull out. So I don't know what you can do as far as that goes, but.
And that's another one, we'll schedule a field review and go out and look at it and see what improvements.
Where Rifton ties into 11.
Yeah,
Yeah, when you get off the interstate, you're on to Rifton, and then it comes down and.
No,
ties
no,
into
no,
11.
no, no, that's headed north.
Yeah, oh, so you say it's
Coming
southbound?
south, what happens when you get to the bottom of the hill there,
Uh-huh.
where you're coming right out on Highway 11,
Uh-huh.
unless you know what you're doing and you get to the right-hand side, and if you get to the right-hand side and not bearing to the left too much, you can see people coming.
Uh-huh.
But if you stay on the left-hand side thinking, I'm gonna make a left-hand turn, I guarantee you can't look out your car and see what's coming around that curve.
So-
Because your car
Yeah,
gets.
it's pretty wide in there,
Yeah.
on that southbound, where it connects to Route 11.
Yes.
The ramp, so, and we can look at that.
Actually, I think, all right, so I can give you a little information on that. So, at an RTC meeting, Rural Transportation Committee meeting a couple months ago, that is one of 2 intersections in Smyth County that qualify for Smart Scale. And they've reviewed that, and they determined that they can likely fix that in-house. And what they're proposing is, as Pam mentioned, it is so wide down there, and people don't really have any direction where to go. And if you go to the far left, you're at a weird angle, you can't see the traffic coming from Atkins. So their proposal is to restripe that and basically create a T intersection so that traffic is forced to come into Route 11 at a 90-degree angle. And then another suggestion was that they contemplate moving the fences or better right-of-way clearing, because that's another obstruction. When the right-of-way grows up and where those chain link fences are, it blocks, your view to the right primarily.
Right.
That is being discussed, and hopefully that will be fixed soon.
Paint can go a long way in fixing, kind of, directs traffic.
Yeah, you can tell whether it's a local person or someone from out of town on how where they stop at the stop sign. If they stop to the right, going left, and you know that somebody's been there before.
Uh-huh.
So, a little paint there to make everybody go, like a T intersection would solve that problem. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say also on the northbound side, you're talking about that Rifton, your signs, if you're in a lower car, cause I get off there every morning, when you get off there, if you're in a lower car, that sign blocks your view. The traffic is coming under the interstate to hit northbound, you can't see that. Now, I sit above it, I can see it, but I've seen numerous near misses there in the mornings.
And that's something I can, pass on for our sign crews. We used to have those sign crews in the residencies that we could,
It's just the
control.
height of that sign. It's basically, if you were standing at waist high, and when you're sitting in a car, you're looking right into the sign, and you would have to pull in front of the stripe to stop in order to see, so you're basically in the roadway at that point.
And that may be a simple fix, I just can't say it right now, but we'll just have to look at it, and if it is, we could relocate the sign and open up some sight distance there. Okay, the next one was, number 6, exit 35, and it's the same issue with visibility turning left, and I'm sure that is, going northbound. We have, that's on our radar now. That's been brought to our attention, and the district traffic engineer is going to review that, or may already be reviewing it. And we're not sure what the results may be there, but they are reviewing it to see if they can make improvements. It's,
I was gonna say, I just wondered if you could put one of those big mirrors up under the interstate right there, because you're completely blocked, and you gotta pull out to, and you're about halfway out in the lane before you can see. And the new lane underneath it, the extra lane, is great. That's helped a lot with traffic flow, so.
Good.
But
Yeah,
anyway.
we're looking to see what improvements can be made there. And the last one, is it possible to put a blinking yield left turn sign at the hospital entrance? And are you talking about the state hospital
No.
here, or the hospital?
The new Smyth County Community Hospital.
And that's within the town limits, so we would have to get the town,
Okay.
to look at that?
The town limits.
Yes, and they're the ones that they receive maintenance funding to take care of those issues.
County starts at the bridge.
I think it's right past that, so.
And ma'am, while I've got your all's attention, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna brag on you a little bit.
Thank you.
So,
Turn his mic on.
Well, anyway, so this week, we were out of school last week for snow, and it was, I mean, when the temperatures where they were, not, there's nothing you can do, the chemicals won't work, and, but we had communication. What I was to tell you is our road checkers, we have people out checking roads at 4:30 in the morning, and ones on my end of the county, like they were talking Plum Creek, Mill Creek, they said, we got, due to the roads were asphalt, we got the Washington County line completely covered. And if you notice, Washington County actually came back a day after we did. So whether, if it was you all or your subcontractors, I'm gonna pat you on the back on that one, because we were able to come back to school the day before they were. And it was obvious as to why. So, thank you.
Glad, yeah, appreciate it, thank you. And that was all on the list, so if you got any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask one. Probably kicking a horse that's dead a long time ago, but the McMullen Bridge. And the reason I ask is I went through, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and the railroad was working on the crossing, and they said within the next couple of days, they're gonna shut that crossing down for probably just be a day or two, but still, that means if you're going to Abington, you gotta go all the way to Marion to get to Abington, so.
The railroad, they do maintenance quite often, and there's nothing that we can't really stop them. I mean, if they think that it's a safety issue, they work on their railways, and.
Well, I said all that to get to.
Oh, to see what the
is there any
bridge-
kind of timeline on the bridge?
And that was one of the projects that we had been asked about earlier, and where the bridge replacement, it looks like they'll be advertising or send out an advertisement for bids in June of 2026. And we're hoping that construction will begin in the fall of 26 with the completion in the January of 28. That's a schedule that we have right now. So hopefully it won't be too much longer, and we'll get some work started out there.
Well, that way I can get it out to the people in my neighborhood and blame it on you if it don't happen.
And we can forward, Anna can forward, there's a schedule that we can forward out to you for all those.
And like I said, or if that happens to change, I'll let you know. But right now, that is our schedule.
Well, that was one of my things, is I've said that I would try to keep them informed as much as possible. So, and that's the only thing that anybody's getting me. That's all they're worried about right now.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, I had a question regarding the apparent uptick or definite awareness of the crashes on the interstate, specifically the southbound, at about the point where the two roundabouts are gonna be,
Preston Hill?
constructed here eventually. A friend of mine was telling me he was going to work one morning, going southbound towards Glade, and wasn't driving excessively fast, but there's apparently a section there on the passing lane, is the way I understand it, has been repaired, and there's a little bit of a dip, and when there's water on the road, he thinks what contributed to his crash was it hit that, lifted his car up, and he lost traction. And I wonder if that, or something similar to it, may be potentially contributing to some of those, because it seems like they're concentrated in that general stretch of highway there, I guess is my concern. So my question to you is, has there ever been any studies or looked at reviews to say, okay, when it was first built, it was set like it was supposed to be, and then over the years of milling and repaving and milling and repaving and patching, that maybe the setting of it is no longer arched to the point the water runs off, but it tends to bow and collect a little bit, I guess is
We call
for
that
my non-engineering brain here.
We call it super elevation, where it's elevated so that the water is flushed, or the water runs off the sides into the ditches or whatever.
Right, it's supposed to, but
And
his comment was, it almost seems like it's puddling.
And that is, yeah, we can move that on up to the interstate maintenance group and ask them to review that. But when we have paving contracts, the super elevation is supposed to be put back, for lack of better terms, whenever they mill it and pave it. So now I'm not saying that maybe that section, we'd have to look at that. But our contracts do require them to put the super elevation back in it so it sheds water.
Do you all do any kind of verification that they're meeting those specs after the fact, or
yes,
is
we
it
have,
just assuming that they're doing it?
We have inspection.
Okay.
We have inspectors on those projects. We've got inspectors, or we have subcontract.
Do you all have any statistics as to the volume, the speed, and I guess the density of it is, maybe that's contributing to it, maybe it's human errors causing it. I mean, are we driving too fast? Is it too narrow? Are we just not good enough drivers?
And I really can't speak to that tonight, but we would have to check the accident reports, the crash reports, to tell us if it was driver errors, like speeding, if it was a medical condition, what would have caused some of those accidents. And I don't have, I haven't looked at any of that to be able to speak to it.
Well, that's my question. That's my ask.
And I understand.
If they could, somebody put eyes on it and kind of review it and say, is there something lurking there that's maybe going on that we haven't quite noticed yet? Or is it just a combination of events that just happen?
And are you talking about like in the Preston Hill area? Is that right?
It's at the area there where the bridge is going across, where the two roundabouts are. It's the Adwolf area, it's my understanding. What is that area?
Big Mullen.
Okay, yes.
The same area there on the other side of the road where you had the road fall in a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And behind the dip dog stand, I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do.
This is basically within 500 feet of there.
Yeah. I do remember that was on the northbound side.
That was on the northbound, we're talking southbound.
Okay.
And, one other comment, again, just me observational, it seems like most of the crashes are out-of-towners. And maybe it's because it's an interstate, but when that one individual that's local crashed, he indicated some processes that may have contributed to it that bear looking at.
And I will move that over to the interstate maintenance group and see if they have looked at it or will look at it.
Okay, thank you. That's my ask. Thank you.
Something they shared with us today was some information that was shared on the number of wrecks, a number of accidents. So I-81 with the 2022-2023 data, and the same thing for MVCs also in Smyth County. And if you look at that, Smyth County in 2023 had 334 accidents out of 3955, so slightly less. But when you start looking at the data, if I looked at it correctly, I'll say that Smyth County contains about 6.75% of I-81 as a whole, roughly 22 miles. And I'm saying from about the 32 to the 54, that's an estimate. With that being said, though, if you look at last year's data, Smyth County accounted for about 8.4% of the accidents on I-81. if that was, you know, if we had the same number of mileage and you figured that accidents happen roughly the same up and down. But what I would wonder is number of accidents on the, so as far as I guess almost like a density, what does Smyth County look like compared to other counties? Areas where it runs through. Are there areas where there's hardly any accidents? Say the Salem area, you know, where it runs through, because I know that the traffic slows, whatever. But I was kind of interested how we compare. In a 22-mile section, we had over 300 accidents in 2023.
That's, and I'm sorry, like I said earlier, I haven't really looked at that data. We do have data where we track accidents on the interstate, and, but I would just have to look at that, or get with central office probably, who they create reports, that kind of thing, and look. So are you asking for the breakdown? I mean, is that what you would want?
Well, I was just kind of wondering how that compares. I mean, you know, I do know that we have, by volume, we have more crashes than we have miles of interstate, you know, percentage-wise. So that tells me that we're probably above. If we're up, somebody else has to be lower. Now, is it because of the terrain? Is it because of the, you know, the hills up and down, or, you know, the curvature of the road? I also happen to be a, you know, volunteer fireman, so you listen to the calls that go out, and I would just about, if it's raining outside, they're gonna set Station 6, which is Atkins, off for something between the 47 and the 54. And then they're gonna set Marion off for something in that dip dog stand area down Preston Hill. And then they're gonna set Chilhowie off for something at about the 33, 34 northbound, where you come down off and the road turns. Though, that is just about gonna happen simultaneously every time, so. Every time it rains. So it's just one of those that, and like he said, some of it, yeah, I'm sure some of it is operator error, but we know that Virginia's in that fault state. So if there's an accident, there is a reason somebody's at fault. The driver, they're gonna tell you that you weren't operating in a safe speed. They're gonna look at your equipment and say, oh, well, your tires were. So it's never, you know, law enforcement's never gonna say, well, it was VDOT at fault. Somebody has to be at fault.
And that's something I can check to see if I can pull some numbers and you know, see if that's something I can. It may be a few days before I can get that to you, but I will check to see about getting the numbers as crash data compares across other counties.
Yeah, that would be interesting, if you could get like the county name, the lane mileage, and then the crash data per year. Probably just those three columns to be able to compare would be good data to have.
I think it all comes down to speed and crash and road crashes.
Yeah, I do too.
Really, I mean, it's just two major factors.
You earned your keep.
I have more of a comment, if I could. Thank you for coming and allowing us to express the concerns that come to us from our constituents, plus our own, what we see. And we have 2 law enforcement officers here that deal with this stuff directly. I just hear about it, and sometimes hear it, I see it. So thank you for coming and at least
You're welcome.
taking the data back, or the questions back, and take a look at it.
And you know, that's what we do, but the residency is maintenance, and we handle maintenance, so getting that into the engineering part of it and things, so that I'll have to go outside of the residency, so you know, we don't really keep that kind of data, but I can look for it and get it back to you.
I did want to ask one other thing. So last week, 2 weeks ago, we did have the I would say there were straight line winds that came through, more on the southern side of 81. So in my district, more or less, Thomas Bridge area, there's a lot of trees that are still laying in right-of-ways. I've had some citizens ask me about their property being cleaned up, because there's places where they just gap the trees, open the road, and done what they need to, but there's still a lot of that. So.
And we will be going back to clean up those areas.
We've actually rented equipment to come in probably the 1st of February. Just in Smyth County, I think there were 63 trees in that area you're talking about.
Yes.
It was a straight line wind that shot those down.
Yes, it was.
So it takes us some time to get.
Okay.
We'll get them cleaned up.
And thank you for the answer. I was just, would like to be able to provide them when they ask me, so thank you for that.
I've gotta say something. So, and it's a good thing. So I just wanna commend you for coming too, because, you know, I've been doing this now for a couple years, and well, even sitting over in the bar chair over there at times, as I was working my regular job and observing and everything. But I'll have to say that, you know, in the past several months, it seems like I've seen you guys a lot, and I think that goes to say a lot with our working relationships, and we appreciate that. And able to keep this line of communication open, you know, I will have to say that every time I've had a question, you've been very good at trying to get me an answer or to the department it needs to go to, and then get something back to me. But thank you for continuing to want to be here and answer the questions. And
Well, you're welcome. Anytime you need me, just yell. And, Mr. Paris, Jeff Harrison is our resident administrator.
Okay.
And, he and I both started in the Abingdon residency in December of last year, of 2022. So we've both been here about a year, a little over a year, I guess. Anybody have any other questions?
Thank you, Pam.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. I'll be sending an email. Does any particular person I need to just?
Send it to Lonnie.
Okay, I'll be getting you an email with some responses. Thank you all.
Now we're into the public hearing. Did anyone sign up?
No, sir.
No one signed up for a public hearing. I guess we need to,
You need to read
we
the
want him
notice.
to read the advertisement.
I can at least just give you a quick brief summary.
Give us
That
a
works.
synopsis of it.
So the budget amendment number 5 is $3.5 million, a little bit more. Out of that, the lion's share is tied to the school system and their additional funds they got from the state budget, basically $3.15 million. There's a memo in your packet that summarizes what that is from Dr. Carter. He's here if you have any questions on that. We have a few other items that we threw in there. We received a $200,000 grant for the dispatch center to go toward the call handling equipment, so we don't have to worry about paying for that out of debt funds. We have the $60,000 included for the Kiwanis Road water booster pump that was approved previously, and I wanted to make sure we accounted for that. And then $50,000 rollover from the health department. We didn't get the response to the health department quick enough for the county's approval of them rolling over those funds. So they ended up turning it back to the state, so we'll be receiving a check from the state as reimbursement. So I wanted to add that as revenue and expenditure so we can go ahead and keep working forward on replacing the carpet out there. The other thing tied back to the schools, in addition to state funds, in order for us to, we worked really hard to get up to that 105% required local effort. Our peers and neighbors are much higher than we are, but we want to at least stay at 105. So that required an additional $48,000. That's also included. I don't know if Dr. Carter has anything you want to add, or if you guys have any questions for him.
I looked at it, but the question that came to my mind when I saw that 48,000, what in particular is the school going to do with that extra funds?
Sure, yeah, may I?
Please.
So with this, the additional funds that were provided, and there's a breakdown at the bottom of this memo too, but of that, $2.2 million is tied to all-in funding. That's a new initiative by our governor that was put through the Department of Education, and that has to be spent by 2026. We have until September of 2026 to spend that money. But the funds, the additional funds, were put toward a 2% raise beginning January 1. That will actually, the first pay increase will be at the end of this month. And a $500 full-time bonus and a $250 for part-time employees that was paid on December the 15th, as well as help with keeping insurance premiums down to where there was no impact of the 6.2% increase to our insurance. So it went to bonus, went to staff.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You've already spent it, so we decided not to do
Thank
it.
you.
You're in trouble. I know you talked to us before you did it,
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm just.
Yes, sir.
That's the best you can do.
It's the best I can do,
All right.
Mr. Call. That's it.
We got two other people, one other person here. Do you want to say anything about this, or do I close the public hearing? I'll close the public hearing.
And I will ask, Mr. Chairman, just out of respect for the schools and their spending needs, I would like to request that the board consider waiving the rules and go ahead and take an action on this tonight.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of waiving the rules, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the rules are waived, I'll take a motion now.
Move to approve.
Motion.
Yeah, there's a lot more than just schools.
Have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise, motion carries. Minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody have a chance to look through those, any changes or corrections?
I have one correction. I can't vote for myself to be on the chamber board.
Okay. I have one I guess it would be a correction, where we talked about the local ordinances, where we made a change.
The rules of procedure.
Yeah, rules of procedure. I felt like that needed to be in the minutes themselves, not just that we'd make some changes. So that we're gonna add that section that was changed into the minutes. That way, 10 years from now, somebody comes back and reads the minutes, they're gonna see what we changed. And not have to go somewhere else and try to figure out what this was done at that time. But that was an addition to the minutes. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve with the changes. Have a motion and a second. All those any discussion, of course? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Motion carries. Citizens' time. Now's your chance.
Maybe next time.
You're just not wanting to talk tonight, but I'll close citizens' time.
I've got 25 things I'd like to say.
We give you a chance to, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You remember how it was like 10 years ago, don't you?
Committee reports, the ordinance committee.
Now, that would be Ms. Sturgill, unless you want me to go ahead with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ordinance committee.
Oh, yes, you don't mind, go ahead, Rick.
Sure. So, we had a committee meeting, last week, and, the main item for discussion was dealing with animal control, updates to, the county code. There are several areas where the county code is out of date with the state codes. So Mr. Bennett shared several, and they should be in your packet, starting on page 28. So after discussion, a lot of it was more grammar and just updating to the code sections and such. But the next step would be, since it's amendment to the ordinance, next step would be the need for a public hearing. So following the conversation, a motion was made by Mr. Adkins to recommend scheduling a public hearing on February 22nd at 5 o'clock or shortly thereafter regarding proposed revisions to the dangerous dog animal control ordinance. Mr. Sturgill seconded it and was a unanimous recommendation from committee. And that's just a public hearing, that's not to take any action on ordinances.
Okay, that's a committee committee motion. Yeah. Which is basically bring us up into the state code. And we do have that is lack of a better way to say it, that is somewhat of a problem in the county, and so it's something we do need to address.
What do you say, we have three dogs right now?
We have 5 right now in the county that are classified.
So is it mainly changing the fee?
It's the fee, and there's it seems like there was an actual code section reference. It's the 2 highlighted areas there, page 28 and 29. We have the 28, we referenced the wrong, the older code section where it says 3.2-6540.
Okay.
That code section is.
So that fee, is that set by state statute?
He said it's, I think, if I remember correctly, it was to help pay for insurance. There's like insurance because for a dangerous dog.
Yeah.
Insurance for who?
So $25 goes to the Commonwealth and $60 goes to us into Fund 3.
Yeah.
And that Fund 3 is what we use for, some supplies for the spay-neuter program, stuff like that.
But that's set by the state.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah, we can't charge 100, but right now I think we charge 50.
Any other discussion? That's a committee recommendation, so we didn't need a second. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Motion carries.
That was all for the ordinance committee.
All righty, we got the appointment committee.
That's me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Roscoe.
The meeting, I've got 3 committee recommendations for appointments. Did you wanna do them one at a time?
I'm a big believer in doing it that way, yes, one at a time.
Okay, well, we've been filed, discussion, motions were made after discussion. The motion was made by Charlie Atkins to recommend appointing Royal Oak District Supervisor Courtney Widener to the Southwest Virginia Community Corrections Criminal Justice Board. I seconded the motion, and that was a unanimous decision.
All right, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise?
Okay, next I have,
Congratulations, Courtney.
motion was made by Mr. Atkins to recommend appointing Highway Supervisor Jason Paris to the Workforce Development Consortium Board. I seconded the motion, and it was also unanimous approval by the committee.
Okay, committee recommendation again, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Congratulations.
Okay, the last one I have on that, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Atkins, recommending appointing John Clare, Marion Police Chief, to the Mount Rogers Community Service Board to a 4-year term to expire December 31st, 2027. I seconded the motion, and it's also committee recommendation.
All right, committee recommendation, any further discussion?
Do I need to abstain from that?
No, it's a committee.
No, I don't think so.
Well, as a supervisor, probably.
Yeah,
Could be safe.
Okay.
Probably should.
All righty, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise?
That's all I had for that committee, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And if I may, we do have one more position that's available on the Mount Rogers Community Services Board. We were hoping to find someone on the western side of the county. If anyone knows of a good candidate, we're still looking for the appointments committee.
For the which committee?
Mount Rogers Community Services Board.
You want from my end of the county?
Yeah, Chilhowie, Saltville, North Fork.
What does the person on that?
We can get you the job description, the board description.
Okay, moving on now. Solid Waste Committee. All right. Roscoe, you wanna do this one, or which
You want me
one?
to? You're the chairman.
Excuse me?
You're the chairman, I think, aren't you?
It doesn't say that.
Yes, it does.
No,
On
it
the
doesn't.
cheat sheet it
On the cheat sheet it does, but not in the minutes.
I'm looking at minutes.
I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and take it real quick. It's a one action item.
Go ahead.
So we lease several of our convenience stations. We're trying to purchase as much as we can. The Dickey's Knob convenience station in Sugar Grove became available, and we talked about options. So a motion was made by Roscoe Call to recommend a purchase of Dickey's Knob convenience station for up to $15,500 out of supplemental appropriation, and authorize the county administrator to execute all documents necessary. Saltville District Supervisor Roscoe Call seconded the motion. He didn't, let's see, that should read that Mr. Atkins seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved by committee recommendation, basically to purchase 6 feet beyond the fence.
Yeah, 6 to 8 feet beyond the chain link fence, so just by the corner of the property and own what we use.
Okay, that's committee recommendation. Any discussion? I was at that committee meeting where we talked about it, and if memory serves me correctly, back in, when I was a CFO of the county, we tried to buy that. And they were wanting, I would think they were wanting like $30,000 to buy that piece of property.
Probably 20 years ago.
We chose, yeah, about 20 years ago, and we chose to, at that point, we didn't have the finances we had now anyway, but, we felt it was a little bit high, and, I think this is good to get this behind us. We're paying rent of about $1,800 a year. So, this is a good deal. It, you know, it stops those rental payments forever. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Motion carries. Surplus committee.
Let me tell you, you want
Either matter. Either way.
I'll let you go.
Okay.
You're gonna roll.
So the surplus committee held a meeting on the 18th at 10:45. We did have one action item, so there's a small tract of property in the Pleasant Heights subdivision that the county inherited inherited when we inherited the water system for Pleasant Heights. We absorbed that system into the county's larger system. In 2006, we abandoned the tank that's on that property, so we haven't used it. I don't know that we've visited the site in 15 years. We were approached by some adjacent property owners about potentially purchasing. So the first step was to surplus the property. So following discussion, a motion was made by Mr. Call to place the 0.1 acre with tax map number 41B-A-7A in surplus as is, and authorize the county administrator to dispose of the property by any means available. Mr. Paris seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved. I will say that the first thing we'll do likely is just seal bid, advertisement notice to the adjacent properties, because they will advertise it in the paper and also send those to the three adjacent property owners. And I don't expect two of the three to have any interest, but the one might.
Do we have a minimum bid that we're willing, that we need?
We didn't talk about that in the committee. If we don't get a bid at all, the other option was to go ahead and surplus the tank itself and see what scrap we can get out of it, and then do another RFP, because we're not sure that the owner that's interested, we're not sure that he wants to deal with the tank.
I just think we need to be careful, like, if we don't put a minimum bid or something, we might.
We're doing seal bids, so we can have a minimum in mind, and I'll make sure that there's a notice in it that we reserve the right to refuse any and all.
Okay. All right, that's a committee recommendation. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Moving right on, and I sort of went through the solid waste committee a little bit quick. Although we didn't have any required motions, if you get a chance, go back and study the information on the trucks. I think everybody needs to be aware of what's going on there, in case you didn't get a chance to look at it before. Thinking seriously about maybe leasing instead of buying, and if you want to talk about it, Sean or myself can either one talk to you about it and why we're thinking of what we are.
We get about 5 years use out of them, and that's about it.
All righty, moving on to the Water and Sewer Committee now.
That's me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Roscoe.
Okay, we discussed the request from citizens from Little Walker Way obtaining county water service. The motion was made by Jason Harris to recommend directing staff to look for other grant opportunities to offset the cost of extending water lines along Little Walker Way. I seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved. Committee, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, any discussion?
Where is that?
Little Walker Way it's on the Cleghorn Valley system.
Okay, that's the one we looked at.
Yeah, we talked about, we had folks coming to the meeting.
It's 5 houses, I think, in there.
Yep.
There's 9. 2 of them don't have indoor plumbing yet, so we're reaching out to other agencies that might be able to help.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing, all we're looking for here is looking for grant opportunities. It's not tying the county to anything. And I think it's good we're looking to help these citizens,
We actually had one close at Mount Rogers, Mr. Chairman, but Bland County put in for one with 200 homes. Kinda kicked us back for a while,
okay?
but we're still working on it, it's still on the books.
Well, we wanna make sure we get this one on the books and see if a few dollars come available, we'll have it, we got a project ready to use it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Sounds like that was unanimous.
Okay, next item, the committee discussed one large balance delinquent accounts that has not responded to any communications following the discussion, the motion was made. Rye Valley Supervisor Jason Parrish recommended directing the county attorney to pursue legal action against Kim Creepy for the 2 unpaid flat rate sewer accounts. I seconded the motion and it was unanimously approved by the committee. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Are the unpaid sewer accounts or water accounts?
Sewer.
Yeah, sewer,
Or this,
2 homes.
another mistake of mine.
Are they connected to sewer?
Yes, we smoke tested the 5 that we had that were the large delinquent item, accounts, and all 5 of them.
So they're actually connected to.
Smoke came out of the house.
All righty, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Sounds like that one unanimous. And that was it for the Water and Sewer Committee. We're going into new business now, and I'm assuming this would be Mr. Utt?
Yes.
Reimbursement resolution for teleperformance.
So this is tied back to Mr. Rose was talking about with the renovation work being proposed for teleperformance building. Anything that's done prior to the bond issuance, we need to have a resolution of intention to get reimbursed. So that's what this resolution does. It basically puts the bondholders on notice or public on notice that whatever we spend right now until we close bonds, we'll reimburse ourselves with the bond proceeds. You'll see that the maximum amount we put in there was $7 million. That's just an arbitrary number. We're not going to spend anywhere near that, but the bond council recommended that we go high just in case. So we do need action on it.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, let's go pick up the county attorney's, see if he has any comment. He's been quiet all night.
I'll remain quiet till we get to closed session.
Okay.
Then I'll talk a little bit.
Sounds good. Report from the county administrator.
I'll be very brief. I have 3 items real quick. Talking about the board retreat, I wanted to make sure that the April 18th, 19th date was good for the board. That's as early as I could get. That didn't compete with a board meeting day. I didn't want to put you guys through a 4 to 6 meeting or 4 to 6 hour day and then force a board meeting after that. So if that's okay, that'll be the 3rd Thursday, Friday of April. And we need to decide, do we want 2 4-hour sessions like we did last time? We did an evening session and the next day was a morning, or do we want to do it all as a 1-hour marathon? Personally, I'd suggest 4 hours, 2 days. Yeah.
Now, what time will we be done on the 18th?
Whenever you time it, whenever he's going to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 18th. But usually we sit down and chat, so we could do mid-afternoon, or we could do whatever you wanna do.
I've got a District 3 meeting
That starts at,
at 6 o'clock.
so we could do 12 to 4 and then 8 to 12 the next day.
What date's here?
April 18 and 19.
What's the Lincoln? Is it gonna be, we're gonna do it at the Lincoln again, or is it gonna be here?
Wherever you want to. I think the Lincoln worked out, and I think there's enough space there for the department heads to be there too. There's plenty of room.
I think it keeps us from being interrupted in day-to-day.
Yes, I'd rather not be here in the room. For the 18th from noon to, let's say 4:30, because we'll have a little time for a break. And then the 19th from 8 o'clock till 12 noon. I'll report back to them and be good. So the next item I wanted to talk about, I've talked to a few of the board members about adding a consent agenda to the board meeting, and basically what that is you know, the things that don't need to be discussed or take time during the board meeting, like we could probably put the financials on there, we could put the minutes from the previous meeting on there, we could put a lot of different things to speed up a board meeting rather than having a 2 or 3 hour or 4 hour marathon. So I just wanted to talk to you about that, to see if there's some interest. If there was, I think we need to update our the rules of procedure, but I didn't want to assume that the board would want to do that without talking to you first. If you want to just contemplate, we can talk about it in future meetings.
Forgive my
Doesn't have to be next
ignorance,
meeting.
but what exactly is the difference between what we've been doing and a consent agenda?
Okay, so the consent agenda, if there's 5 items on the consent agenda, basically you would have it beforehand, you would read through it, and if there were no problems or questions, there would be a motion to approve the consent agenda in a second, and those 5 items will be dispensed with. No discussion, and you can move on to the next. If there's one of those 5 that you have a question on, you can ask that for that item to be pulled and then vote on the other 4. So it just speeds up the process of the board meeting itself, but take out the mundane items that don't need to be worried about.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think it's a good idea. What do you think, Charlie?
I gotta sleep on it.
They do it at school, they do it at school, schools, yeah, speak, yes.
Everybody give it some thought. There's 7 of us, so.
The only other item I have, the opioid grant funds, the health department is looking at a regional partnership, and they're looking to do a mobile clinic, which is it's an RV that's set up specially, and it's going to be a partnership with the Mount Rogers Community Services Board and Highlands Community Services Board out of Bristol, Washington County, and they want to use opioid funding. So we have about $150,000 or so that's sitting in our opioid fund currently in hand. We also have another 70 or 80,000 that's we're hoping to use for the recovery court that's sitting at the state level. But I wanted to check and see if there was some interest. I would like to make a recommendation that we spend about the total's a little over 300,000. We can get a full proposal, but it'll be about $50,000 cost from the county. You have a little summary at your desk. The interesting thing there, they show that we're committed at $50,000, and what that is they were assuming that they could use the rollover funds from last year toward this. And I had to remind them that we're spending that on the carpet in there, and that they're requesting in their building. So it'll be a little over 50,000. Like I said, we have about 150 that's sitting, and we have to start spending. We have 3 years to spend it as we get it, and our first deadline is going to be September of 24 to spend the first 63,000. We spent 22, so we still have a little bit left that we need to account for. But I don't know that there's action necessary today. What I asked them to do is to put together an actual proposal that she can present to the board at a future board meeting, and I expect her to come, Ms. Pelnick, to come to the board meeting in February. And then finally, unless there's any questions, we have a board member that we did all the logos for shirts and stuff, and we have a board member that wears something special. So, and as our longest serving board member, we bought Mr. Call a special Smyth County logo embroidered pair of bib overalls.
About time.
We expect you to wear them to every board meeting with your shirt and tie.
How about that?
And I gotta say, his
Thank you very
daughter was
much.
great with making sure we got the right stuff.
You don't know how much them things cost.
We did.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, taxpayer.
But that's all we have.
Thank you. Appreciate it, I really do.
Well, having said that, Roscoe, you can go first on Supervisor.
Hard to
Pelnick.
beat that, I mean, I was just thinking about that, you know. I was gonna change these within a couple months, you know. No, I really do appreciate it, I'm glad to have everybody doing a good job here, they did very good, keeping me straight. See, a couple of my friends sitting out here snuck in the back door, hadn't seen in a long time. Glad to see you out. Everybody have a good trip home and everything, thank you very much.
Jason?
I do have one story I'll tell you though. Charlie Clark was here, this reminded me of it. I was at the salt plant working one day and I said, Charlie, I said, I've got half a notion of running for the board of supervisors, what do you think about that? He said, well, he said, that'd be all right. He said, you probably do okay. He said, but, he said, I have to tell you, he said, you know, board's suit and tie. I said, well, I said, if I run and get elected, that's the first thing I'm gonna change. And I ain't changed it since. So it's still that way. It's here, but I've got what I want. He tried and tried and tried. He said, I'll buy you a suit. I said, but it ain't that, I guarantee you. I'll wear what I want. But I appreciate it, I really do. Thank you. I'm making an impression.
Jason?
Just like to take time, I would like to thank VDOT. I know they've already cut out the meeting, but I would like to thank them for showing up and at least addressing and being a sounding board for the issues that we bring up, and at least it's a step in the right direction as opposed to, crickets when you do ask them something. And just continue to, thank the staff and the board for, this is the second meeting we've been to, but as a new member I've been to, but continue the welcoming attitude and the sharing and the openness of the way business is conducted. And I'd just like to see, we're sitting here and we're kind of, the YouTube people see us and they can't kind of see some who's in the room here, but we have 3 citizens here. I still encourage people, if you're interested in what's going on in the county, what you would like to see go on, anything like that, show up, let your voice be heard, and at least have part. Not be it's not a spectator sport. You can participate as well. So I would encourage that.
Thank you. Mr. Sturgeon?
I just want to say, we're going to start our manufacturing excellence program, which are seniors that are planning on going into the workforce. It's going to start on February the 9th. I know that Clegg had mentioned to me possibly, so if you'll just let Sarah know if she wants, if the county would like to be a part of it. Also, I want to agree with what Courtney said there, that we get road dispatches because of buses, so we can reroute buses if we need to. And that one day, about lunchtime, a Friday, I think there was like 30-some dispatches for trees across the road and this and that. And we ended up dismissing school over that day. And I can tell you, the people that do that, they had a lot of work going on. So didn't really, now when I see a windstorm or we get heavy rains and things like that, I know what those guys are in for. So kudos to them and thanks to them for keeping our roads clear, because they've got their work cut out for them too. And thanks to everyone on this board working together. We have the ability to put our heads together and work through problems and figure out what we want to do. So thanks to everybody for being good team players. And like I said, we can talk it out and come up with what direction we want to go with. Thank you.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to lay a whole lot of heavy stuff on the board here, but I do want to make everybody aware of what may be pending. Through the Mount Rogers, I don't know what the exact title of it is. It's the consortium of the 5 counties plus 2 cities, or 1 city, right? Smyth, Washington.
Planning District Commission. Planning District.
Yeah, they deal with the mental health space and seniors space and things like that. At the last meeting, they were kind of discussing some issues that struck me as, how is this happening and what can we do to fix it? And this is just more of an informational throw out there. There is about 100, if I'm not mistaken, between Carrington Place and Valley and the State Hospital, we have about 120 beds for dementia suffering patients, if you will. And that's not nearly enough, because statistically speaking, about 23% of the population of age 65 and up are at risk of developing dementia. To put real numbers on it, that's about 7,000 people a year in Smyth County alone that falls into that category. What I'm telling you is we don't have beds to take care of these folks. And unfortunately, with our law enforcement brothers here, they're being put in situations where, forgive me for saying this, but grandma sees something and calls the police, says grandpa's got a gun, police shows up, takes grandpa into possession, and then 48 hours later realize he didn't do anything, grandma's just demented. So now the fear is potential criminalization of dementia situations. So my ask of the board is, and my staff, is to try to start looking at potential ways of addressing this bed shortfall moving forward before we get to a critical mass of, I mean, just in Smyth County alone, 7,000 patients, and we've got potential patients, and we've got less than 100 beds. That should scare us pretty bad. With that, I don't have anything else to say. Hopefully I can come up with something lighter. So I'm sorry. It's nothing other than informational. I just want to make everybody aware, and it just kind of struck me that this is far underserving all of our seniors with the proper medical care. And with that, I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Mr. Billings?
Y'all are hard acts to follow. So all I can do is echo what all of you said. I'm impressed by VDOT. I've never had to deal with them face to face. I've just been on the back road stuck complaining that they don't do their job, but learning more and more, I see, yeah, they are. So that's props to them. And to go along with what you were talking about, we had to deal with that just not long ago, and to make matters even worse, I mean, we deal with people in distress like that all the time, but to make matters worse, it was a co-worker's wife that we had to deal with, and we had to tell him we have no resource to help you. So luckily, you know, some of his family stepped in and come and helped him. But if we run into that now, if we run into some lady that just drove off from wherever and she's at a gas station or something in town, we have no resource other than the crisis center to deal with them, and they can't deal with them because that's not a mental health issue, that's a unfixable thing. So I agree with that. So we need to start looking into that. So, but thank you all. I think we're heading in the right direction, and it makes me proud to be able to say we. So I know good things are going to happen, because I think we've got a good bunch of people here. Hearts and minds are in the right place. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Mr. Widener?
I predicted I was going to be going last, but you say yourself, I guess.
Yes.
So, I don't have a whole lot to say other than I just appreciate the staff and everything that you guys do. And, you know, with a lot of the decisions that's made here, you know, there's a lot of weight on the shoulders on everybody up here. and all the staff and everything, and, you know, it's not easy. It's a thankless job, really. You know, you can't do this without having the desire to help. And I truly do see that in each one of the people sitting up in front of you guys today. It's been very eye-opening for me, and I'm sorry, I'm just sort of floating off here, but you know, just in my time that I've been here, I have seen, and even the time before I was on the board, I have seen this shift, and everybody hit the nail on the head. We're going in the right direction, and you know, sometimes taking a chance is going in that right direction, and I think we're all open to that, and I want to see us continue that moving into the coming months and years, because you know, things are going to get a whole lot harder before they get any better, and that's just with everything today. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for everything that you do, and you know, just hopefully we can just continue to work together and do the best we can for the county.
Thank you, sir. I want to echo what everyone else said, and I want to thank the staff that when we get something to vote on here, or we need to vote on, we're also given the information that I feel is correct and not slanted. We're giving correct information to make those decisions. That is so important to know that the staff is providing you what you need, and it's correct. Secondly, John and I and the sheriff went to our original jail meeting Tuesday, and believe it or not, right now the tentative projection for our budget is I think $42,000 decrease next year. That's tentative, mind you. If a sheriff gets busy and puts a few in jail, it can make a difference, but right now that's the proposal, which I'm happy to see. Thirdly, there's, I think, 4 of us, Mike, myself, and Courtney, and Sean, and Jason, 5 of us, going to Richmond to the legislative day. And Rick. I'm sorry, staff has failed me. So there's 5 or 6 of them. I hate to say it this way, everyone, Chris and Roscoe.
I just came back from that.
I know you go apart an awful lot with the pharmacy board, but what I was getting at, if you two have any specific issues that you think we need to talk over with legislators, please let us know. You know, because if you've never been there, we get a chance to sit down with our legislators and others if we want to. And you can get a lot accomplished up there in a day and a half of meeting these people and saying, hey, we down here in Southwest Virginia need this, or we need that. And if we can get together with Wisville delegates and Washington County people who we've gotten to know, and all of a sudden 3 or 4 different counties are saying the same thing to our legislators, they can put us on track to say, well, go talk to these legislators out of this county and that county, and that helps us get things accomplished down here that by ourselves we couldn't get accomplished. So if you have anything that you want us to try to take to Richmond, don't hesitate to catch one of us and talk to us. Having said that, I will now request a motion to go into closed session. First off, I better ask, can we handle our closed session in 20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Someone want to make
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion here in closed session, Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, under A7, consultation with legal counsel and briefings with staff members or consultants pertaining to actual probable litigation pertaining to the Jericho case.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
What are y'all doing up there for the legislative session?
Yes.
Next week.
The 31st.